afternoon. First, I'd like to introduce Anthony Markin. Anthony was born and educated in England and has an honors Bachelor of Science degree. He has been married to his high school sweetheart for 51 years, and they have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. I believe his daughter is here today. He has had stories published in newspapers and magazines and collaborated in a book of short stories called Different Voices. Everybody, the dad I did not know.
This afternoon, I'd like to tell you about my dad. The dad I did not know. Now, my dad passed away at the age of 75 from a heart attack. He'd had one 5 years previously, and it scared him so much he actually quit smoking. So he got 5 more years. I flew back to England to attend his funeral. But in a way, I felt sorry for him. Did he have a good life? My mother passed away suddenly at the age of 49 from a brain hemorrhage, just before their 25th wedding anniversary. I was the only child. We offered Dad a home with us in Canada, but he declined. However, he became very lonely, and not long after, he met and married a widow. We were unable to get to the wedding, and he moved in with her on her farm. After he died, she made the funeral arrangements, and I only had to go through his personal effects. There was a suitcase containing lots of photographs and photo frames, mainly of his travels across Canada when he was with the Royal Air Force during the war. I locked it up and arranged to have it shipped over to Canada. It was some time before I could really bring myself to open it. But one snowy weekend, I set about my task and gradually tried to sort out the contents. It was a fascinating activity, following his travels all across Canada. Then I found a mystery. There was a photograph frame without a picture. I flipped it over, and there was a packet attached to the back. I opened it up, and surprisingly, there was a map of a forest in the Couchibouguac National Park, just outside of Moncton. In the middle of the forest, there was a big red X. Beside it were the words, "Buried here." Then in small print, "Look for the Inukshuk." Well, in the weather that we had at that time, it was impossible to head down east. So we put it to one side for the spring. Once the weather had warmed up and the frost was out of the ground, we took a vacation and drove to Moncton. One day we took a picnic to the national park. We found the forest and I had the map. I put a trowel in my backpack. Now the map was very detailed because that was my dad, and we were able to follow it very easily. The Inukshuk was very, very large, but my dad had marked out the location in footsteps. We found the general area and looked around to make sure nobody was watching us. And then we started scraping away the surface dirt and making insertions to see if we hit something. And sure enough, we did. With careful digging, we came across a metal box. We removed it from the soil, which we replaced, and decided to take it with us to our picnic spot. I opened the box with some trepidation to reveal a photograph of my dad in his RAF uniform with his arm around a tall, attractive young lady. On the back it said, "Billy and Noreen, Moncton, 1943. However, there was a letter too, which I will read you. My dear son, daughter, If you are reading this, you will know that I have passed on. This is written in 1943, as I'm about to return to England with the RAF after my sojourn in Canada. Please be assured that I have always loved you. But what is love, you may ask? I have loved my time in Canada. But what about human love? This picture is of me and a young lady I met here called Noreen. Every month the RAF had dances in our mess, and we invited young females such as nurses, teachers and office staff to attend. Noreen and I hit it off so well, there was even talk of love. I may even have said that after the war I would return to Canada and we would get married. Obviously I didn't, as I intended to return to England and marry my childhood sweetheart, your mother. You are one of the outcomes. Noreen lived with her family in a big farm in Weldon, outside of Moncton, overlooking the Fundy. Please try and track her down. Show her this picture. Apologize on my behalf for not returning, and tell her about my death. Love, your dad. Noreen still lived on the family farm, so it was easy to track her down. As soon as I arrived, she guessed who I was. You're Billy's boy, aren't you? And it's not good news, is it? She was currently caring for her husband, Charlie, who had cancer. She invited us for lunch the next day, and she reminisced about what happened during the war and her times with my dad, the dad I did not know. Our daughter, who is sitting right here, and her husband visited Noreen last summer. She still lives in the same farmhouse. She is 94 years old and still as sharp as a tack. Thank you.